Hello, everyone. If you thought yesterday was chaotic, today said, hold my coffee. Bitcoin is hanging on to 90,000 by its fingernails. The UK just launched a $28 million crypto fraud probe. The Fed is acting like a deer in headlights, and Congress apparently wants you to pay your taxes in Bitcoin now. Oh, and President Trump signed the Epstein records release bill, which is definitely going to make the internet behave completely normally. We've also got fresh unemployment data, another mixed jobs report, and, my personal favorite, Crypto X melting down over the Fed's weekly balance sheet update, which is literally just a scheduled Thursday report. Shocking news. The Fed did not print $1 trillion backstage while Powell ate a sandwich. Let's get into it.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, let's start with the markets, because they woke up this morning and chose violence. Bitcoin is hovering just under 90,000 again, tapping levels we haven't seen since April. At this point, every attempt to balance looks like a toddler trying to jump on a trampoline that's out of springs. We're still in the same liquidity squeeze we talked about yesterday. Global yields elevated, liquidity thinning, and institutional flows pulling back. Over the last 6 weeks, more than $1 trillion has been shaved off the total crypto market cap. Yes, trillion, with a T, as in too bad. We're also seeing real sell pressure on chain. A long-term holder moved about $228 million in Bitcoin to Kraken. That usually isn't done for sentimental reasons. BTC volume spiked while altcoins continued to sag. Classic risk-off dynamic. Because why hold an altcoin when you can panic sell it and buy a weighted blanket? Altcoins are still under pressure across the board. Privacy names like Zcash are cooling off after their big run. AI-linked chains like ICP are mixed. And Solana, well, Solana continues to defy physics. You've got Solana ETFs seeing inflows, but the price says no. It's like watching someone cheer for a team that refuses to stand up. Macro is doing its part to keep markets uneasy. The U.S. added about 119,000 jobs, better than expected, but the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.4%, the highest since 2021. It's the economic equivalent of telling someone, good news, you got a job. Bad news, everyone around you just got fired. Mixed signals that complicate the Fed's decision-making. And speaking of the Fed, yes, that big balance sheet reveal everyone on X was melting down over this afternoon was literally the standard Thursday H.4.1 update. No emergency printing, no sudden bailouts, just the weekly spreadsheet. The real takeaway is Michael Barr's comment today. The Fed needs to move carefully with inflation still around 3%. Translation, don't hold your breath for rate cuts. Put it all together, and you've got a market that's anxious, cautious, and waiting for a catalyst. ETF inflows have slowed, liquidity is tight, and macro isn't helping. In other words, classic consolidation season, the part where everyone thinks the world is ending before it usually isn't. And that's your market recap for November 20th. Coming up next, today's biggest news stories, a crypto fraud probe in the UK, a bill to let you pay taxes in Bitcoin, and Trump signing the Epstein records release. All of it after the break.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, let's get into today's top stories, because the news cycle served a sampler platter of regulation, policy, and absolute political weirdness. First up, the UK's Serious Fraud Office is now investigating a $28 million crypto scheme tied to the collapse of basis markets. This goes all the way back to the NFT fundraising frenzy in 2021, and today, 2 people were arrested on suspicion of fraud and money laundering. This is part of a broader trend. Regulators worldwide are tightening the screws, slowly, methodically, like a DMV employee with a vendetta. And yes, this kind of headline definitely contributes to the current market anxiety. Nothing says buy the dip like felony charges. Next up, in the U.S., Congressman Warren Davidson introduced a bill that would let Americans pay their federal taxes in Bitcoin. Those payments would reportedly go into a brand new strategic Bitcoin reserve managed by the U.S. government. So you get to pay your taxes in Bitcoin, and the government gets to hodl it on your behalf, which is basically the plot twist no one asked for, but everyone will definitely argue about on X. Realistically, this won't pass tomorrow, but the signal matters. It's another step toward integrating Bitcoin into national-level financial systems. And then, in the category of headlines that do not belong in the same news cycle as Bitcoin price dips, President Trump signed a bill forcing the Justice Department to release files related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Oh yeah, that'll calm the public down. Nothing controversial there. The bill passed Congress with overwhelming bipartisan support, which is always a sign that lawmakers desperately want the public to stop asking questions. Expect 3 things: chaos, conspiracy theories, and at least one guy on X claiming he already solved it using an on-chain wallet graph. Following the new jobs and unemployment data, Fed Governor Michael Barr warned today that the Fed needs to move carefully because inflation is still hovering around 3%. In Fed speak, that means, we're not cutting rates, please stop asking. And this comes on the same day the internet panicked over the Fed's weekly balance sheet update, which, again, is just a Thursday spreadsheet. And those are your top stories: regulators probing, Congress experimenting, and Washington doing whatever that Epstein bill thing was. Up next, predictions. Will Bitcoin break or bounce? What does this macro mess mean? And what are analysts calling for next? We'll cover it after the break.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, let's move into the prediction segment. This is where analysts, economists, crypto sages, and three guys with cartoon avatars on X all try to guess the future. With liquidity thinning and on-chain sell pressure rising, some analysts are now watching the $85,000 level as the next potential breakdown zone. We had a long-term holder move $228 million worth of Bitcoin to Kraken. That's not bearish by definition, but it's also not the move of someone who's feeling patient. If Bitcoin breaks $85,000, it could trigger another liquidation wave. If it holds, then we may finally get the bounce people have been crying about since last Tuesday. In other words, it'll either go down, go up, or go sideways. And that concludes technical analysis. Polymarket still shows a 67% chance the Fed does nothing in December. No hike, no cut, just neutral. And with today's mixed jobs data and a rising unemployment rate, analysts are split. Some say the Fed will be forced to cut early next year. Others say, nope, sticky inflation means status quo. So basically, the Fed meeting is just going to be a very expensive suspense movie. What happens if the U.S. actually lets people pay taxes in Bitcoin? Some analysts argue that shifting BTC into a strategic Bitcoin reserve could reduce market float and tighten supply, potentially bullish. Other analysts say it won't pass Congress anyway, so don't hold your breath. But imagine the IRS sending you a letter that says, we accept your Bitcoin payment. Also, we're all gonna make it. Altcoins are still bleeding, but a few sectors might be setting up a rotation. RWAs are holding strong. AI chains have cooled, but still show institutional interest. And privacy coins are showing resilience after their rally. Meanwhile, meme coins are doing what they do best, reminding everyone why therapy exists. Look, downturns don't mean doom, but bottoms have patterns. To get a sustained bounce, we usually need at least three things: liquidity improving, ETF inflows returning, whales buying instead of selling. Right now, we have exactly 0 of those. So be patient or reckless. It's your journey. And that wraps our prediction roundup. Coming up next, your mailbag and proof of thought submissions. Today's lineup includes tax questions, conspiracy theories, and someone asking if Bitcoin can sue the government. We'll read them all after the break.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
Welcome back. Time for the mailbag. Your proof of thoughts, your theories, your panic tweets, your coping strategies. And remember, if you want your message on the show, all you have to do is think something. Low bar, very inclusive. Okay, here we go. First comment is from Logan. Sen, do you think this new Bitcoin tax bill could actually pass, or is this just political grandstanding? Logan, friend, every bill in America begins as political grandstanding. Could it pass? Maybe someday, but for now it's mostly a political mood ring. It shows where the sentiment is heading. And right now the sentiment is, we don't understand Bitcoin, but we'd like to. Next is from @StonkDruid on X. Sen, I saw a guy claim that whales are selling because they're scared of the Epstein files. Is this true? Oh, absolutely. Whales woke up, saw the Epstein bill and said, sell everything. The truth is coming out. No, the market is down because everything. Still, shout out to that guy for combining macro conspiracies and market structure into one sentence. Okay, Maya in San Diego writes, do you think the UK fraud probe is the start of a bigger crackdown? It might be. Global regulators tend to move in packs. One major investigation usually sparks 3 more. But this one's focused on a 2021 NFT fiasco, so it's more like cleaning up after a tornado than changing policy. In crypto terms, regulators waited 4 years, and now they're speedrunning the boss fight. This next one is from a proof of thought QR submission. Can Bitcoin actually sue the government for mismanaging monetary policy? No, Bitcoin cannot sue the government. But it can record every bad decision on-chain forever, which is arguably worse. And if Bitcoin did sue, it would insist on being its own lawyer. Always a red flag. Next, we have one from TaxDad 2099. If we pay taxes in Bitcoin now, does that mean the IRS is going to start sending refunds in Bitcoin too? Technically, the bill doesn't say that, but imagining the IRS issuing Bitcoin refunds is hilarious. Here's your tax refund. Also, please disregard the 14,000 confirmations. The network is busy today. And finally, our question of the day from Brittany in Chicago. Sen, with all the unemployment data coming out, is crypto about to get worse before it gets better? That's the big one. Short answer, yes, it can get worse. Tight liquidity, higher unemployment, and Fed caution usually mean volatility. But the long-term answer? Every major cycle has a moment where macro looks awful, right before the bottom forms. We're not there yet, but we're closer than it feels. And that wraps today's Mailbag and Proof of Thought segment. Coming up next, the SENB token update and today's closing thoughts. We'll wrap it up after the break.
You're listening to the SENB Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, welcome back. Time for the SENB token update, community notes, and today's closing thoughts. First, the ecosystem is growing faster than expected. Proof of Thought submissions are up, community engagement is climbing, and more people are showing up every day to be part of something new. Phase 1 is almost fully complete. The Daily Brief, the Tucker Carlson Show guest hosting, character expansions, QR integration, community pipeline, all live and functioning. Phase 2 will start rolling out sooner than planned. Why? Because the audience is showing up early. Proof of Thought is already becoming the backbone of community participation. When you submit an idea, a question, a theory, a chart, whatever it is, you're actively shaping the show. You're not just watching crypto news, you're helping write it. That's the entire point of the ecosystem, not passive viewers, active thinkers. We're working on creator submissions, community tiers, utility layers for SENB, and additional character-led content. This isn't just a token. It's the engine behind a media network, one we're building openly, publicly, and iteratively. And that's why the SENB token exists, to connect the content, the community, the creators, and the culture. Look, the macro picture is messy. Markets are down, regulators are circling, and crypto Twitter is 3 bad headlines away from a full existential crisis. But every cycle has this moment, the moment where things look the worst before they turn. So, if you're feeling the pressure, you're not alone. We're all in the same upside-down roller coaster. The difference is, I'm narrating it. And that's going to wrap today's Daily Brief. Submit your proof of thought using the QR code. Follow the channel for updates and catch tomorrow's episode right here. I'm Sen B'Hiro, and I'll see you tomorrow. The SENB Daily Brief is a production of Sen B'Hiro Media in collaboration with Whole Shot Coffee, coffee that fuels champion. Written and hosted by yours truly, Sen B'Hiro. Production editing and scheduling handled by Maya Valencia, who somehow keeps me on time, caffeinated, and occasionally polite. Original theme music composed and produced by Paul Hahn, the community legend whose beats hit harder than a Fed rate hike. Research support provided by the SENB community. Proof that sarcasm and spreadsheets can coexist. For more shows, merch, and on-chain chaos, visit senbhiromedia.com. Thanks for tuning in. Stay caffeinated. And remember, if it's not in the brief, it probably wasn't bullish anyway.
Set my wallet free.